Canadian travelers should return to Canada via commercial means while it is still possible to do so. Let me be clear. If you're abroad, it's time for you to come home.
Today is March 16th. All of Europe has just about shut down. Our flight has been canceled, and we might be trapped here. Today's date is March 8th, 2020, and all across the world, people are coming to know a word by the name of COVID-19.
Or coronavirus.
And today, I'm gonna show you guys what it's like to be a traveler during these times and try to share if it's safe. So, right now we're in the Dubai International Airport, and this morning we started off in Bali. And it depends on where you are in the world that you'll see the varying levels of fear and pandemonium caused by COVID-19. As most of you guys know, it started in China and has quickly spread across Asia very, very rapidly. Somehow, it hasn't arrived yet in Indonesia. Now, I wouldn't say Indonesia is quite so lucky. I think it's just a lack of detection. But with that said, it's actually pretty chill right now in Bali. This morning the airport looked pretty normal considering we had a rather late flight. Probably 30 to 40% of people are wearing one of these. And now that we're here in Dubai, the Middle East, I would say there seems to be even a chiller atmosphere to it right now. People seem to be pretty relaxed, despite the fact that Iran right now is seeing a huge skyrocketing in cases. But now we're about to board a flight. We're going to Switzerland, which is bordering with Italy. And Italy right now is seeing the worst of all the international countries outside of China, except maybe Korea. Korea might have it worse.
Korea is worse.
So, to give you guys a bit of a background and just to understand how quickly this thing spread, on March 3rd, we booked our flight to Switzerland. At that point, we were well aware that Europe was becoming a new epicenter for the coronavirus. But at that time, Switzerland only had 22 cases. And it seemed as though they may have somehow been able to use detection and prevention to steer clear. Maybe that was wishful thinking because by the time we arrived, just 5 days later, there was 350 cases of COVID-19. This was a virus that was hard to detect and extremely easy to spread. Is this your first time having a stand-up bar?
Yeah.
Me too.
It's amazing.
I've never had somewhere to go on a flight. So look at all the seating. You can sit over there, you can sit over there, and you can order a drink. Right, so far, Bali, Dubai, it's noticeable, but it doesn't really impact your travels. But I'm really curious to see what Switzerland is going to be like, because we just got a crazy update no more than an hour before boarding this flight. They might be closing down the Italian border with Switzerland.
They did.
They did?
They did. You're only allowed to go for family purposes and then for work.
For business or family, and no other reason. You can't cross for leisure. So they're really starting to cut down on the travel. Even going back a month now, back to maybe February, there has been some small things we've noticed while traveling. For example, going into Indonesia, we had to fill out some forms. Going into Oman, we had to go into the border check where they were checking everybody because of corona reasons. They wanted to see what countries you've been to. And even though we've traveled to a few areas that have had some symptoms like Philippines, none of it really stopped us from traveling. It didn't make a huge impact. So things are of course subject to change in a very short amount of time. But at least up to today, it has not greatly impacted travel. Bruh. Welcome to Switzerland. It's my first time here. So, we are now at our hotel in Lucerne, which is about an hour outside of Zurich, and I have to say the airport was uneventful. A couple of amazing days of travel in Switzerland passed by, but all the while something was on the back of our mind. We kept seeing COVID-19 showing up in the news, overtaking places like Spain and Italy, and we couldn't be more afraid that we were going to find ourselves in the next epicenter, but we only had 2 more days, and how much could change in just a couple of days? March 13th. Things are deteriorating. In the past 24 hours, the whole world has gone from the coronavirus being some scary distant thing to realizing it's imminent and it's coming, and the whole world is starting to shut down. All flights to America from Europe are no longer flying, so luckily our flight goes Switzerland, Iceland back to Canada, but we leave in 2 days and we're tempted to just book the next flight out tomorrow, but there isn't really any good flight options for tomorrow, so it's a little complicated. We might wait it out, but I really hope that doesn't come back to bite us. This place is beautiful. I'd love to see Switzerland in another condition, but right now it doesn't seem to be the right time to be traveling around. I'm just hoping the best for everyone, and it's definitely time to get home. Later that night, Kathy and I got on the phone, called up the travel agency, and tried to get our flights all rebooked. The problem was we weren't alone. Everybody else who was a foreigner, either working in Europe or a visitor, was trying to get on the next flight, leaving, going back home. And that made it extremely difficult to find alternative options to fly out a day earlier, unless we were willing to spend thousands of dollars. So we asked ourselves the pros and the cons, and we decided to wait the next 24 hours because we already had a flight taking us back. So we decided to do the socially distant travels and stay in our hotel room for basically the next 24 hours. Today is March 15th, and it seems like Europe is on the brink of closing down. And here we are about to fly back to Canada to basically bunker down and pick our place of quarantine. And we just got hit with this. That's our flight. So my worst fear has come true. We are stuck, at least for another day, here in Switzerland. Our flight's canceled. I'm currently on hold, and I don't know if I'll be getting through for minutes, hours. There's really no telling. Icelandair is under some severe stress right now with the situation, and I don't blame them. Like, it's not their fault. Luckily, we have been booked onto a Lufthansa flight which leaves for Vancouver about 20 hours from now, so we just have to pray that nothing happens to that flight or to Lufthansa, because if they shut down, that's our last choice, really. We'll be stuck in Europe for the, I don't know, weeks, months. It's just, nobody knows what's going on right now. This is so much bigger than I expected. It's really gonna have a huge impact on travel and daily life. And yeah, it's pretty scary when it starts to become so real. All of those red bars right there are canceled flights. About a month ago, my little brother flew to Scotland to start his semester abroad, where he was gonna do a bunch of travel through Europe while getting some of his credits. Basically, exact same thing I did that changed my life when I went to Bangkok, Thailand. And sadly, he is currently at the airport in Scotland on his way back to Canada because the whole program has been shut down. All of the Canadians are being told to come back home because it might be some of their final days to do so before all commercial options to get back to Canada are no longer available. And I mean, I'm seeing that firsthand. There is a true scramble going on here. A lot of the airline desks are just purely empty, and those that are operating are getting a lot of passengers they didn't originally have. People are just trying to get on whatever airline option is available. We actually just went to the front desk of Swiss Air to see if we could find an option to get back to Canada today, but they're telling us that even though they wouldn't be able to get us to Vancouver, options to Montreal and Toronto are completely booked up. Now begins our wait of 20 hours. Let's hope we do not get stranded. This is our hotel inside of the airport on a weekend. It's like a ghost town in here. Only someone at the front desk. This was the day for me that I realized COVID-19 was something so much bigger than I could have ever imagined. This was going to be something that had just tragic consequences, not just in certain countries, but the entire world. This was so much more than a regional virus, and this was the time for us to get home. At this point, governments around the world started to call their residents to return home, and this was something we took very seriously. It was our time to make sure we got back to Canada. As we went back to our airport hotel room, all I could think was, I wish we had taken that flight the prior day, even if it had cost us thousands of dollars, because now there's a chance, a very substantial chance, we might be stuck in Switzerland for an indefinite amount of time. So we just caught news of the border closing tomorrow with Germany, and we're supposed to fly Switzerland to Germany, so now we're afraid that in the morning we're gonna find out that the border closes, which is supposedly happening 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Shows the time of our flight.
Which is when we fly. So now we're like, do we book it for the border now, get a car, or take a train just to get across to the German side so they can't like stop us? But then we would also have to find a flight from Frankfurt, and that's probably all sold out, and we have to contact Iceland. It's a mess. We have to contact Icelandair now. Well, there's not much we can do other than go to bed, get up in 6 hours at like 4:30 a.m. and hope for the best. Bonsoir. Let's go. It's boarding. Oh my god. But I'm not gonna rejoice until we fly back to Canada. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. We got boarding passes. Thank God. That is the plane right there. We're back in Canada. It's a miracle. Oh, that feels good.
I can't believe I made it.
Home free. I'm smiling if you can't tell.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents.
I can't believe I made it. They said like 45 minutes ago, and it was the first news that we received here, that they weren't allowing non-residents to get in Canada, so I was freaking out.
Yeah, the Prime Minister made a big address an hour ago. So non-Canadians can no longer enter, but I don't know. I guess it didn't count for Kathy. And, well, that brings us here to today. Today is March the 24th. I have been in quarantine for 8 days, socially distant, locked inside of my parents' basement. I'm so grateful to have this place. I had my 27th birthday here in quarantine, but luckily that didn't stop Kathy from baking me an incredibly delicious and beautiful carrot cake. Thank you so much, Kathy. I've watched an ungodly amount of TV and movies, and I've even gotten back into video games, which I have not played since I was a kid. And now I'm starting to brainstorm what it means to be a travel vlogger, a travel content creator during a quarantine period. And how long it will last? Nobody really knows. But needless to say, I couldn't be more grateful to be back home in Canada. This is truly home. I think the best way to say where home is where would you go in the event of an emergency. I'm staying inside 14 days of my quarantine. It's super important to make sure that if there's anything in the system, it's staying inside here. That is the main #1 thing you guys can do right now. You've heard flattening the curve. If you haven't, just Google it. It's something you need to do. The other thing I'm going to be doing is just keeping an eye on what my local government says. I'm in Canada, so I'm gonna see what Trudeau says in this case. What is the recommendation of the Canadian government for a Canadian in this time of emergency? My #1 tip, guys, if I could summarize it, stay at home, listen to your local government. That's it. Tip #2 is don't listen to people like me. Don't listen to content creators, to influencers, to people that have some crazy internet forum. Just because they have a voice doesn't mean it's right. Now come over to my office, guys. Let's change it up. Okay. There we are, here in my office now. So, I want to make a commitment to you guys because I know that COVID-19 is going to be something that's going to be all over your news feeds, your Instagram, your YouTube, your everything for the next few weeks and months. And I don't think that's a healthy thing. My goal is to try to alleviate that. It's to entertain, it's to provide escapism. And so I'm not saying I'll never bring it up, but my goal here on the channel is to really reduce and limit how much it comes up. Lots of new content to come, and I will try to steer clear of Corona talk. But guys, on a very serious ending note, I really hope you, your family are all in good health. I hope you're together. I hope you're in a good place right now where you can ride the storm. And right now, guys, it's the most important time to be there for other people. We really need to be there to support one another, to look out for those that are in need, because this is going to be a time where some people are just going to be brought to the most challenging points of their lives, and let's make sure we're there for those people when they need it. On that note, I'm gonna end it here. Let's get lost again in the next one.